Good girl. You look like you're going to try to fall off the bed. Please don't do that. He's a good girl. He's a very good girl. Hi. I got my hair cut this morning. It's much shorter now. Okay. Yeah, I got my hair cut this morning. I was just like, I know the chapter's either going to go up today or Friday, and I'm just like, I'm going to go get my hair cut now. Didn't take very long. They were very nice. Got it done pretty quickly, so all good. So, time for chapter 1144 of One Piece. Okay. So we start off with the cover page. Last week we had the color spread. I think next week we might have another color spread. I'm not sure. I thought I saw something about that. But we start off with the continuation and the Yamato cover page. We don't see page 1 or Ulti in this, or at least I don't believe we do. But what we do see is Who's Who and his minions just laid out on the floor, all beat up. We see Yamato having, just beaten them up, and all, she's kind of, he is kind of scuffed up a bit, but he's good, and he's, freeing the geishas that were all kidnapped and freeing Minatomo. We see Tama here freeing Minatomo, who's just like who's so happy. So things are at least better now. Tama didn't get kidnapped. They found and saved Minatomo and the people who were being kidnapped. So it's kind of a bit of a comparison, considering that in this chapter we're actually going to see children who are being kidnapped. So this is kind of a resolution to one kidnapping here, with them being freed, and kind of the beginnings of the children of Elbaf trying, being, kidnapped by the God's Knights. So we'll see what happens there. As I said, we don't see Ulti or page 1 in this. I'm assuming they're still here. I guess there's a possibility they tried to escape, but we'll see how that goes. Don't know exactly how they're going to, determine where they're going to go, or if they're going to be grateful to Yamato for saving them. That's a possibility. Small possibility, but a possibility nonetheless. From there, we go right into the chapter. We don't see anything of Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji's group right now that are off dealing with Loki. We don't see any of them. We mostly catch up with a bunch of the other sections around the island. And first we're going to start off with Frankie and Ripley and their little tour of the Atom Tree. So they have just arrived at a very interesting looking building that I'll get to in a second. And Frankie is just, oh my god, mind blown. What is this? And Ripley's just like, well, what do you think it is? And we see this picture that is just, it's clearly supposed to be like a similar giant robot, ancient giant robot to what Emmet is. But this one looks like it has been here so much longer than Emmet sat on Egghead Island, or even so much older than Emmet had been coming from the Void Century. And this thing is just giving off major Studio Ghibli vibes for Castle in the Sky, for the Studio Ghibli nerd. I doubt I'm going to be the only one bringing up that comparison. But the ancient robots that we see in Castle in the Sky, that are like the ones that have just been sitting there, that have like lost power throughout the whole time that they've just been dormant in the Castle in the Sky. This thing is giving off those types of vibes right now. And it's not just like this giant robot's head. This thing has been here long enough that there is stuff that has calcified around it. And there are trees and branches growing out of it. As in, like, the tree has grown around this thing. This section of the tree has grown around this building. And grown around this robot that they have subsequently turned into a building. This thing is going to look freaking awesome in the anime. It looks freaking awesome here, but like once you get color added into it and everything, it's going to look even more awesome. And like the anime is supposed to be back next week, I believe. So that'll be good. I think we're going to get 2 episodes, one Saturday and one Sunday, I believe, for the return of Egghead Island. So that'll be fun. And Frankie is just freaking out looking at this thing. And Ripley's just like, it's always been here. And he's like, this thing reeks of science. It's just like how amazed Frankie is right now. And Ripley continues. She's like, well, you are a cyborg. I figured this would be the thing you'd like the most. And I like that she's like, oh yeah, I know exactly what a cyborg is. I mean, like, I get that, like, the way that we have pictured Elbath over the years is not like backwards, but very Viking-esque. And while the Vikings had their own technology, we are seeing, you know, like with Elbath now, we are seeing like they have, you know, the Skvals, the cloud ships, the Skvars, whatever they're called, the cloud boats. We're going to see a couple of those in this chapter. We see them a lot here. We see that they have like the rainbow bridges that they're able to do. That are just, you know, really fun in that regard. So they have those different types of technology that don't really seem to be anywhere else in the world. And I like that she's like, oh yeah, you're a cyborg. Okay, how do you know what a cyborg is? Is that in any of the books that, you know, Saul brought with him? I was like, Ripley is a biology teacher. We've learned this already. I am curious as to how much of the books in the library Ripley has read. How many of them she's read. And Frankie's just like, why is there a facility like this in the land of giants? And then we have Bonnie and Lilith pop up. And Lilith is just like, hey, Frankie, nice job. You actually found us. I was thinking of showing you this place later. And Bonnie's like, it's super cool here, Frankie. And Bonnie is still in her kid mode. I love the fact that now that, like, Bonnie has found a group of people she trusts. Not that she didn't trust her crew. And I'm sure a lot of the time when it was just her and her crew, she would be in her kid form because they knew who she was. Like Tater and, you know, Tater Tot and the other ones all knew who she was and knew what age she actually was. 10 then, 12 now. And so we're seeing a lot of that. And now she's found other people she knows she can trust with the Straw Hats, and she doesn't have to put up this front of being this, you know, adult anymore because her dad is safe. You know, Kuma is safe, and now she's just getting to relax more and be a kid more, which I like. So, you know, Bonnie's just like, oh my god, this place is so fun. So she's getting to act more like a kid now. And Frankie's just like, what are you guys doing here? Lilith? Bonnie? And Lilith is just like, yeah, we got lost. And Bonnie's like, thanks for finding us. And Frankie is probably just like, so even geniuses get lost. I just did the thing my grandma always did with my uncles because there were 4 boys and it always ended up being Duh Howard. Because Howard and Doug were the 2 younger ones, and it's always Duh Howard. And that was his nickname for a long time up until he passed. Unfortunately, that was my uncle's nickname. But like shift through all the different straw hats that I'm thinking of. Yeah. And Ripley continues, and she's like, "Good thing we ran into you. I heard some kind of alarm going off somewhere, so the forest might not be safe anymore." And Lilith is just continuing. She's like, "But this place is incredible. Even at a rough estimate, it's got to be over 3,000 years old." And Frankie is just blown away by this again, and he's just like, what, are you kidding me? Do you even realize how long 3,000 years is? Stuff that's going to be pointed out with this. If this robot, you know, fossil of a robot basically, has been here for that long, it's still not as old as the Palace at Alabarna, which was, I believe, 4,000 years old. And then the Tree of Knowledge had been planted 5,000 years ago. So it's not as old as those things, but it's still pretty dang old. And it's probably, like, this thing has been here long before the Void Century happened. This thing, like, predates Joy Boy and all of that stuff, and Poseidon and all of that. So this thing is probably from maybe the first world, maybe the second world, depending on how long the second world stayed around. But it's been here for a long time. And Ripley just continues. She's like, Yeah, I can't really deny that, but honestly, not even the people of Elbath know what this building is. She's like, yeah, this thing's been here long enough, we don't know what the F it is either. It's been here so long, nobody remembers anymore. Kind of like the wall in Game of Thrones. It's just like, well, we know that it was built a long time ago to keep an evil out of the north, like, the Night Walkers and everything away from the rest of Westeros, but it's been here so long and we're not exactly sure how it was built now, and they just say, magic, it's fine, magic did it. Technically they're not wrong, but it's kind of like that thing. It's just like, it's gonna be for like, you know if at one point in time humans ever go extinct and then other animals, evolve or whatever, like humans at least maybe not go extinct necessarily, but at least not, they lose a ton of the knowledge that they have now, and they end up finding a bunch of our buildings and everything else like that, and they're like, this must have been a religious building or a government building. That was a museum, so you're half right, type of a thing. Or, no, this was a Dave and Buster's. It's like, no, had nothing to do with religion. This is where people got food and watched sports. That type of a thing. But given Oda, this place is probably going to be, we'll cut back at some point in time and get like a flashback with this thing in it. And Lola continues, she's like, now this is worth researching. I think I'll just move in here. So, and Frankie's just like, so you could get lost again. So you can get lost again? He's just being funny. And she's like, anyway, I'm going in too. So he's getting ready to jump in and start looking around the giant robot thing. And then Bonnie just freaks out. And everybody's just like, what happened, Bonnie? And they all turn. And she's like pointing at what's behind them. And they all turn and they see the giant storm cloud with, the giant storm cloud with the legs that are lightning. And I was like, there's something right behind you. And we have like the little box. It's like, it's the representation of like the kid saying, what really scares me is the storm. To the kid who made this, I do not blame you. Not in the slightest. I live in Tornado Alley in Nebraska. And we were getting closer into tornado season. And Lincoln typically, knock on wood, doesn't tend to get hit by tornadoes. But there are other areas, like on the outskirts of Lincoln and other, small towns and stuff like that, that have been very much damaged by tornadoes in this area. And I have, whenever there's a tornado warning going on anywhere, close to Lincoln, I tend to just be like very cautious about that, because I'm just like, oh, the storm could come here, and I'm terrified of tornadoes. Just a healthy fear for someone who lives near me. And then there's people I know who will go out and frickin' chase the storms because their self-preservation is zero. And I'm like, don't do that. So that. Also, when I was a kid, they showed us the movie Twister in school right before summer. That movie takes place in Tornado Alley. Pretty sure it takes place in Nebraska. But it's just like, really? Really, you want to show this to kids who live in Tornado Alley? Bad idea. That movie is one of the reasons I'm terrified of tornadoes. So this thing coming up, I don't know what my thing would be for this. Something about like tornadoes or spiders or needles or some combination of those would probably be like the thing that I fear the most in this regard. But like, it's like the kid is like, what really scares me is the storm. Until we have this giant storm that has popped up, and everybody is just like, oh my god, what the F is that? And Ripley's just freaking out too. And Frankie is thinking like, oh, Elbath, the land of mysteries. And Ripley is just like, oh, no. I have no idea what the hell that creature is. That's not supposed to be here. Not at all. No. That is not supposed to be anywhere near me. That should not exist in the first place. What the F is it? So she's freaking out, which is fair. We cut away from them and we cut back to the western village, and this is where the Draugr, or whatever it's called, has shown up, the giant zombie corpse skeleton thing. And it's just like, what really scares me is Draugr. I can't pronounce it, I'm sorry, and I'll probably butcher it if anyone asks. And so we see the monster has gotten so much closer to the village after it knocked the fire brigade out of the sky. and it's shown up at the village and is starting to cause damage, and so many of the giants are like, oh my god, it's this thing. And they're like, sober up and grab your weapons. The anti-fire unit Svar has been taken out. That that is a draw, right? Isn't that a zombie? And they're just like, we see just like all of these different Elbast citizens, shouting and grabbing their weapons and getting ready to fight and everything, and defend their village, which is exactly what they should be doing against this thing. But they're like, all of them have been, a lot of them have been taking, part in the drinking and everything, so they have to like sober up really quickly. We'll get a take on what Dorian Brahe are doing in that regard in a minute. And we see one of the giants, who I think is just like one of the female warriors. She's like, what do you mean they're connected to the kids' imaginations? What the hell does that even mean? Because it's like they got the transmission from Aunt Ange, about like, there's monsters showing up and they seem to be connected to the children's imaginations, like what they were afraid of. So she's like, what the heck does that even mean? And a bunch of the others are just like, and the chiefs, they need to step up and take control. Dorian Brahe, it's just like, they drank too much and ran to the bathroom. What? And Brooke is like, just like watching as this all happens, as are the rest of the Straw Hats that are here. Usopp, Jinbei, Nami, and Brooke are all the present ones, because Frankie's off with them. We see the rest of the crew in this chapter. Frankie is obviously off with Ripley. We saw this already. We're going to see Chopper and Robin with Saul in a little bit. And then, of course, as I said, the Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji are currently off at the in the underworld realm, dealing with Loki. And we don't see them in this chapter, as I said already. So all the Straw Hats are accounted for. And Brooke is just like, that giant skeleton looks familiar. Wait, is that me? Not the time for a skull joke, Brooke. Although good to see that you've sobered up enough to move your head from your crotch and put it back in its rightful spot. So good for you. And so one of the other giants just comes over and he's like, take the guests out of the village. I'm hauling you out, table and all. So he's just like picking up the table they're on. So it's like, he's like, he doesn't want to accidentally, squish them or something. So he just picks up the table and starts carrying it. And Usopp is like, whoa, hold on. Don't you there. We're fighting too. So he's like, we're fighting too. And Nami's just like, or Jinbei is like, speak louder. Even Elbaf thinks that, thinks this incident is weird. Yeah, exactly. And we hear someone saying, of course not Colin in this translation. It's Koron, Kron, but it's Colin. It's Colin. And he's like, but why? I'm a warrior too. I'm gonna fight. And they're like, no, you're not Colin. I'm Scopper. I'm Gabon's son. Click there. We'll get to that in a minute. And they're like, exactly, you're not Gabon. So this is where, Colin is outright saying it. He has not outright said who his father is. Now he has. The thing is that we know that, like, Nami met Scopper back at the castle. He said he was just called Yasan, or that's what Road was referring to him as, and didn't let him elaborate about who he actually was. So Nami, should she like listen enough on this conversation, depending on stuff, she might then ask, hey, Colin, yeah, did you say your dad's name was Gabon? Yeah. As in Scopper Gabon? Yeah. And then she'll be like, oh, that's who we ran into at the castle. Okay. Luffy and Zoro challenge the other right-hand man of the former king of the pirates. Oh, of course you did. Yeah, yeah, that tracks. So I just like Nami having like a migraine attack at that point in time, like, oh god. So we see this, and the giant that's trying to like calm Colin down is just like, the kids need to get somewhere safe. Got that? So it's not that he's okay. So in this answer, I fully agree with the adult giant. Colin is a child, even by their standards. Specifically by their standards. By like human standards, he's like an adult because he's 20, but because he's older than Luffy, and he's the same age as Nami. But he's still a child by giant standards. And given the fact that what's going on with the other children who are at the Walrus School, that they are currently being, knocked out and kidnapped, wandering off and, all of that stuff, they don't need to add Colin into that mess too, which is fair. He's a child by their standards. I would still consider him a child by, regular standards anyway. He looks like a freaking child. But, they're trying to do this to protect him. And, of course, Colin, because he's, been raised probably on stories of, like, how freaking badass his dad is, which is fair. Gabon is badass, but it's like, oh, well, your dad did this, and your dad did that, and, all of this stuff, and, Colin really wants to be this warrior of Elbath. And he stands out against a bunch of the other kids because of that, because he wants to be this warrior, and the rest of them don't really want to be warriors, which is part of the conflict going on here. It's just like, can you, what's more important, brain or brawn is kind of like the overarching narrative in that regard, and in that comparison. My answer is you can have a healthy balance of both. Just look at Athena, goddess of wisdom and war. She was a frickin' warrior, and she was the god of wisdom in Greek mythology, and in Roman mythology as Minerva, same thing. So it's like that whole concept there. But Colin is just like, being like but I want to go fight, I want to help, and he's like, and the giants are like, no, you're not doing that. Nami yells at Jarl, and Jarl comes over, and he's like, what is it, girl? And she's like, there's something we didn't tell you, sorry. And Nami is apparently then explaining to Jarl, or they take Jarl to where Gerd had been treating the two guards that were injured at the castle that Rode and Nami brought back from the castle. Took them there along with a few of the other giants, and Nami isn't explaining to them what's going on, and the other two guards are kind of giving this kind of, rough explanation as to what happened. So this is at least getting Jarl caught up on what's going on with, like, the Shanks look like. He's like, an intruder who looks just like the red-haired one in the castle? And the guards are like, yeah, both of them were insanely strong, and the other one had some weird powers. And they've brought the Straw Hats are here as well. For the group here are here, and Jinbei jumps in and he's like, in this world, when something strange happens, the fastest explanation is always a devil fruit. But if this really is an unknown phenomenon, then there's a good chance they are behind it. So the translation note for this is basically saying they don't know if Jinbei is referring to devil fruits in this regard or something else, which is fair. The way that he's phrasing is like, well, yeah, if strange things happen, it's probably devil fruits. This is an unknown phenomenon, therefore they are probably the thing behind it, meaning devil fruits. So we'll see if that gets shifted around in the official translation in a couple of days. So they go through that, and Jarl then tells some of the other giants that were with them, are just like, alert the entire country. 2 humans not part of the Straw Hat crew have infiltrated this place. Report the moment you find them. They're like, yes, sir. Understood, and they run off. And then Brooke is kind of thinking, he's like, only 2? With all these strange phenomenon happening, we better assume there could be more of them. More than 2? On it. So it's just like, they're taking what the Straw Hats are saying into consideration, which is good. I mean, again, the Straw Hats have dealt with enough problems that they're like, okay, there's enough things going on right now that there has to be something else at play here than just like 1 or 2 devil fruits. Currently there's like 3 devil fruits at play for what's going on, for the thorn fruit, the Ryuryunomi model Chillin, and the arrow fruit that are all currently being used to kidnap the children and cause scare everybody on the island with all the monsters and everything. But those are compounding different effects from the devil fruits, so they're not wrong. Nami continues, and this is where we see again like her anger coming out, because it's like her knowing that kids are being kidnapped, and of course Nami has always is against this no matter what. And she's like, I don't know where they came from or who they are, but kidnapping children in broad daylight, you bastards, I'm not letting you get away with this. So I really want there to be something where Nami clashes with Summers, because she is just so... Nami is always very protective of children. We have seen this throughout the entire story, even in some of the filler arcs. We see Nami be protective of kids. But it's something that very much we got introduced to very heavily at Punk Hazard with the kids, as I mentioned last week in the last chapter review. So it is kind of like, oh, well, yeah, Nami's not going to be happy about this, so, and she's not. So I really want to see her fight Summers at some point in time. And just like bullshit his opinion of what love is back at him and just like electrocute the F out of him. I want to do that. I want to see that. I want to see Nami fight him. I know there's thoughts about like Nami and Sanji teaming up to like fight against Summers, because like Sanji is like one of the straw, he's the one that talks about love so much and everything, type of a thing. So we'll see what happens there. And Usopp is just like, if this keeps up with people being taken as hostages, what do they think they'll try to demand from Elbaf? Good question. Answer. Complete and utter fealty to the world government is the answer to that. And he's just like, I've never seen a kidnapping like this. And Jarl is just like, I won't allow it. And from a lot of the people I know that are like, oh, Jarl might be like a traitor or something like that. Like there's like the whole Jarl traitor theory that's out there. And I don't know what to say about that yet. If there is some type of this traitor theory going on, we learned in the last chapter that Ylva is, of course, Jarl's great-great-granddaughter. But there is also, a lot of people have pointed that out, so it's just like, oh, well, Jarl or Summers keeps talking about, like, the thorns, the more you love someone, the more the thorns are going to hurt you. So, and it would be kind of interesting to see if, like, Jarl ends up being the one who, like, shows up and tries to save Ylva. And ends up, like, in the setup of trying to save her, something happens, and then, like, either stuff is revealed of whether he is or is not the traitor. So we'll see what happens there. And Jinbei is just like, well, we'll help too. A ship and some people to back you up. And Jarl is just like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Your guests. Head to the safe place and stay hidden. It's just like, but no, wait a second. And someone's also like, where are Dory and Broggy? And it was like, they went to the bathroom. Drunk again. I think that's Jarl still just like, ugh, those boys. So Jinbei and the rest are just like, okay, what are we going to do now? And he's just like, but if they're human-sized, we're the ones who should handle it. And Usopp is just like, that's right, yeah, big stuff should be settled between giants. We'll find those intruders. And it's just like, let the giants handle all of, like, the fire that's going on, and then what's going on with all the monsters and everything, and then let the Straw Hats try to find the smaller problems, find the intruders. Brook makes a comment, but Elbaf is massive. With our legs, it may be a bit tricky. Very true. And Nami hears something, and she turns around, and she sees Colin, and Colin is currently dragging a bag of weapons. How many freaking weapons are you trained on, kid? Dragging a bag of weapons over to a smaller version of the Skvlars, whatever they're called, the boats, cloud canoes, dragging it over there. And is, getting it, trying to get it, set in. To be fair, if I was a giant, and I had, like, this really, really long lifespan ahead of me, and there's a whole, you don't have to, you can become a jack of 1,000 trades, a jack of many trades, and by, training for 1,000 hours in each thing. I was just like, well, if you're a giant, just go ahead and train yourself on a bunch of different stuff. Why the heck not? You got time. It's like, you could be a warrior, just learn all of this stuff, and then also, spend your evenings reading and, get your bachelor's or something. I don't know. So, and they go over, and he's like, we cut a little bit, and it's just like, oh, I thought you were going to stop me. Yeah, do you want to get on board? Sure, yeah, you can come with me. And he's just like, all right, but I'm the captain. So they're just like, hey, can we come with you? We want to go and help what's going on. Sure, yeah, get on the boat. I'm in charge, though. And Nami's just like, oh, that's cute. And she just thinks he's so cute. And then Colin is like, the ship gets going, and he's like, Colin, pirates, set sail, which is adorable. And Usopp is just like, you're the giant goat, so you row. Because it's like they are much too small. I mean, like, Jinbei might be big enough to be able to help row the boat itself. Row, row, row your boat. Gently down the clouds. So there's that. But, you know, Colin's getting a bit ahead of himself. And then we cut to where the Gods' Knights are. First, we're going to be getting, like, an announcement being said over where they are. And it's just like, to the entire nation of the Solar Kingdom, the Sun Realm, humans not affiliated with the Straw Hat crew have been confirmed at Arnst Castle, and hostility is expected from them. And then it just kind of trails off. And then what we do is we see Gunko, and she is listening to the TDs, the tone dials, that are like the headsets. She's just sitting there, listening and like, probably bobbing her head, listening to this. And Sommers is just like, ha ha ha, there it is, Gunko's post-lunch ritual. And she's like, it's not a ritual, I just like it, that's all. And he's like, that's a TD, right? Let me put on a song. Sitting with the one who messed up, starting with the one who messed up. And I don't know if this is supposed to be he has a guitar with him and they're like, no, you're not playing the guitar, now give it here. We're not trusting you with that thing. And Kirringham is just like, must be nice just walking around with something like that. That's your favorite. What's your favorite song? And she says, New World. So she is a fan of Brook. I wonder if there's going to be a subplot in this arc where she is like, I'm going to try to kidnap Brook and bring him back to Marijois, and he's going to be my personal dancing monkey and play my favorite songs whenever I want him to. Part of me kind of wants that to be the case, or part of me wants it to be that she has to fight Brook in this arc at some point in time, and it ends up being more of her just like fangirling over him for a little while as they're fighting, and he having to like dodge his attacks and keeps like quoting his lyrics back at him would be kind of fun. That would be fun. That would be an interesting way of doing that. And Summers is just like, what, you unhappy with the world today? And Killingham is just like, you shouldn't laugh at what people like Summers. And he's like, ha 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 ha, my bad, but look over there, grown-ups giving their all to save the kids. And Saul has returned to where the kids are, and he's got a couple of shields this time to protect himself from the thorns. Very smart idea. We don't know if the thorns are sharp enough to be able to pierce through, weaponry or something like that. So he's got the shields, and he's like, all right, no more getting stabbed. And I was just like, I won't let them push any further. And, Chopper and Brook are like, you've got this, Saul. And he's now in front of the kids, and he's just like, okay, you're all just following the white cloth, aren't you? But that cloth's headed straight into the flames. So if I don't stop them, everyone's gonna die. I have to stop them. So he's got the shields and he's got them out and in front of him. And what ends up happening is, he's still yelling at the kids to stop. And Ylva runs into the shield. The thorns appear. Or I don't know if they're still going to be like drawn clear at this point in time, or if they're still going to be very obvious. But she goes forward, hits the shield, and then the person who's behind her, the boy who's behind her, who's one of the ones that has like actual ancient giant horns, pushes into her, and his thorns that are wrapped around him bang into her, and her thorns bang into him. So Charles like, what? And he like pulls back really quickly. To stop it so they're not bumping into each other, and he's like, I'm sorry, Ylva, Scald. Ugh. So the kid's name is Scald, another name, and he's just like, you back there, are you okay, Ylva? And so it's like the person who was like behind Scald possibly almost backed into him, or ran into him. So it's just like, okay, so that's not going to work. He's like, damn it, if I stop one of them, the others will get hurt by the thorns. And Robin's like, poor things, what a horrible trap. Again, Robin is, I mean, like, a lot of the Straw Hats like kids. Some more than others. I would say Nami and Robin are the two Straw Hats that like kids the most. Some of them are a little more indifferent to them. I mean, like, Zoro's a bit more indifferent to the kids. Luffy acts just too much like a child anyway. But, Robin is, of course, very protective of children as well, and she doesn't, I do want to see, like, Nami and Robin team up against, like, Summers, because, like, him fighting against him being the one that's causing the most problems with the kids, them fighting against him would be a great way of, like, doing that. Robin's like, that's right, Saul, we need to find out where this is coming from. And he's like, could it be close by? Is like what Chopper asked. And they're going to head off, I'm assuming, to go and try to find a way to figure out what's going on with the kids. And Saul's like, well, you're doing that. The kids are going to, are going to throw themselves into the fire. So I'll do what I can. So he's like, he's got a lasso, which I love because it goes off of his, cowboy hat that he has. So he's got a lasso and he's like lassoing one of the kids and pulling them back. And he's just like, if I can't pull the ones up front, then I will get Bjorn from the back. So he loops the lasso around one of the kids and, grabs them and it's like pulling them back. We still see the thorns, but doesn't look like the thorns are able to cut the rope, because even though like they hit the shields, the thorns didn't puncture the shields. They punctured the other kids, but they didn't puncture the shields. So they may not be able to do much against regular objects. It has to be like some person that's there. So he's lassoed one of the kids at the back of the line, and he's just like, I'll haul you back here. And I'm like, that's a pretty good idea. That would have been one of my thoughts too. It's just like, okay, well, we tried this. We tried the shields. That didn't work. I tried touching them with my hands and I got stabbed. Okay, so we tried the shields. That didn't work. Let's try not physically touching them, and we don't want them to bump into each other. So start at the back of the line or something like that. Also, like lassoing them from the side and pulling them to the side would be good too. Question is, where is he going to put them? It is possible that what Saul might do is, he's got, this one lassoed, Bjorn, got them lassoed, and he might, like, take them, run them back, and, like, throw the end of the lasso around some tree or whatever, branch or whatever, and then, like, tie them to that. So they're, like, kind of a little bit hog-tied. I know it's not the best image in the world, but, kind of, so the kids aren't going to wander off again and hurt themselves, or get hurt in the fire. Because it's like the kids' immediate safety of getting them away from the fire is the number one priority. The thorns and the being asleep can kind of be dealt with later after they've, at least got the kids away from the thorns. So he's pulling them back, and he's just like, at this rate, we can stop them one by one. He then looks up, and we see the giant nightmare version of Fenrir shows up. And it's just like, what really scares me is Fenrir. And he's like, what the heck? And he's just like, no way, that beast is helping them? Who's controlling it? And Chopper is just like freaking out in the background. Fair. And we get back to the Walrus School where Angie is talking to the director, and she's like, Director, it's not just the West Village. Monsters are popping up in the other villages too. He's like, are they showing up all over Elbaf? It's definitely the work of some kind of ability. We need to find the culprit fast. Right. So again, they have to go and find Keringham, and assumedly you knock him out and we're good, necessarily. That's tend to be the general answer for how to defeat someone with devil fruit powers. You knock them out and their power disappears. Worked with worked with sugar. And a few other ones as well. Knock them out and their power disappears for now. So we cut to the outskirts of the West Village where the Draugr has shown up, and it's shown up, and it seems to have taken some damage from the Vikings that have shown up and are trying to fight against it. So they're trying to deal with it, and they're like, no way, a Draugr like this actually exists, and it's just like, just one of them gave us this much trouble. And like, they're injured as well, because this thing does have the ability to deal damage to them. And it's just like, get the wounded back to the village. So that's going on. Then the giant dragon that's supposed to be the representation of Nidhogg shows up. And, you know, one of the other giants is there, and he's getting ready to fight against it. And we have like the boxes that are just like, what really scares me is Nidhogg. What really scares me is a ghost. So like, you know, Nidhogg has shown up, and it's starting to like claw at the village. And the ghost with the top hat, I don't know why the ghost has a top hat, but sure, the ghost has a top hat, has shown up as well. And they're like, okay, we got to deal with these things now. And it's just like, we won't be able to protect everyone, protect the village. Everyone retreat. So we're having like a bunch of the civilians are now running out as well. And it's just like, we can't hold up. The monsters just keep coming. And now we have the last bit of the chapter. And we have, let's move, Dory, right behind you, Bragi. And, you know, we have Dory and Bragi showing back up with their sword and their axe and everything. And we're going to get like a bit of a replay of the Hikoku Sovereignty attack that they have. And we get that all done that, you know, we saw in the anime already for, you know, beginning during Egghead Island and everything when they attacked Kid's ship. And then all the way back at Little Garden when they did it. Now we're seeing another really good full power version of it. Firing from where they are in the deck of the Great Eric, firing at the Nidhogg and just like bashing a hole right through the Nidhogg. So hopefully that did enough damage to the Nidhogg and the ghost and the Draugr that they're down for the count. They look like they are just like falling apart as the attack hits them. So the monsters, you give enough damage to them and they seem to go away. As I said, they seem to be quite similar to Kanjuro's brush fruit, where he would, you know, he makes the drawing and, you know, it's like it does its task, but if it receives too much damage, it will fall apart. Like if it got too wet, it would fall apart. Or, you know, when Kinemon sliced the head off the ink clone of Kanjuro, that happened as well. It fell apart. So, you know, enough damage to it and it'll fall apart. These things seem to be pretty similar to that. And now we get a better close-up version of the Great Eric again. It still has, like, they had reattached the figurehead to it from back at Egghead when it got knocked off. And now it has, you know, the cloud boat things on it. So it's the Sval edition. Sval, whatever, edition. I can't pronounce that. Can't pronounce that. Don't know why. Just really can't. And it's just like, they're shutting. This is the, you know, the Skyboat edition, basically. It's just like, you're going to pay for this, you freaks. And it's just like, why do you show up without the booze? So Dory and Bragi, we're going to get an explanation as to what happened. And then it's just like, oh, the bosses! It's like a bunch of the giants are so happy. And it's just like, no, they're the giant warrior pirates. It's just like, so it's just like they're kind of, you know, another reunion going on there. And I'm just like, sorry we're late, everyone. What a waste, huh? We threw up all the booze. Leave it to us. We'll wipe out these creatures. We're leaving the kids to you. So it's like, you know, divide and conquer. Let the really strong ones deal with the monsters. Let them deal with those. Dory and Bragi are going to take out a bunch of them, I'm sure. We'll get some of the other ones showing up. See what the Straw Hats can maybe do against them. See Ripley and Frankie maybe take out the Storm Cloud in one of the next chapters. We'll see how that goes. Lilith might be able to deduce what devil fruit it is, and that would be able to be something they can then explain to others down the line, so that would be good. And then we have someone else has joined the party as well and is on the giant ship, and we have Scopper has joined the party. And he's like, or someone's like, what? Yason, the mountain bandit. And he's like, this ship's basically invincible now. So they're just like, ha 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 ha, we got Scopper here. So that'll be fun. So I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Scopper said he wasn't going to do anything to help the Straw Hats. First of all, Scopper specifically meant help the Straw Hats deal with Loki. He allowed Luffy to take the key to go and try to free Loki. Luffy to take the key to go free Loki. So he's fine with that. He's like, Luffy will be able to take care of Loki. And so far he technically has, barring the whole lightning strike. But they're currently dealing with Loki. From there, Scopper's answer did not apply to like, oh, God's Knights or weird other invaders have shown up and started causing this much trouble all over Elbath. And they're kidnapping children. So I don't think Scopper's like, yeah, I'm just going to sit back and let that happen. I don't think Ripley would like that very much if she found out that Scopper just sat back and allowed them to kidnap children that are her students and that are the same age probably as their son. And possibly their son. I'm not going to be surprised if later on in the arc Colin is like a hostage or something like that the God's Knights try to take her. It's like the one kid that gets taken from Elbath is like Ilva or Colin or something like that, or like they're trying to get Colin and like Scopper saves him or something like that. That would be kind of interesting. Not that I want Colin to get kidnapped or anything. I don't want that to be the case by any measure, by any degree, but that would be an interesting way of doing it. So that's where the chapter ends. Don't really see anything else here. I think I caught everything that I wanted to point out. Someone's probably going to point out something that I missed. I'm sure of it. But yeah, Scopper's answer to like not wanting to, let Loki out, without Luffy being able to prove himself was fine. And he's just like, yeah, you deal with Loki, that's fine. This is different. This is a much bigger threat than Loki posed. And Scopper might be kind of in on what's going on with Loki. He might be a bit more aware of, who Loki is. So we'll see what happens there. That's what I have. Along with a new haircut. I have multiple videos that have already been recorded before I got this haircut that are going to go up after this one. Simply just because of what order I record stuff in. So there'll still be other videos of me with my longer hair, but I'm just like, I really wanted to get my hair cut, and this feels so much nicer. I just have to get used to having short hair again. So we'll see how many double takes I get the next time I see people who haven't seen me for a little while. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye!